Welcome in to this Tuesday edition. Blue Sky Live here with you this morning. Chase Parham and Neal McCready. Neal is in the Clark Ford studio. As you can see in the stream, I am not. It's under the weather a little bit, so just taking a little precaution here this morning. But we'll discuss Lane Kiffin's comments from his press conference yesterday. We will discuss the SEC Big Ten trying to come to a bit of an alliance as that's going to move forward in a lot of different ways. So we'll discuss those things and more coming up on the show today, including kind of a strange scene. Braves and Mets celebrating together at the end of last night's final day of the baseball regular season. We'll look at the postseason a little bit. So again, all that coming up and more on the Blue Sky Live here with you today. Blue Sky locations all over the state of Mississippi. Oxford, Exxon here locally, but Sweet Daddy's locations everywhere. So whether you're coming in for a convenience store, a quick fill up, or plenty more options, that is Blue Skies and Sweet Daddies all over the state of Mississippi. And again, Neal's in the Clark Ford studio.
I am Clark Ford's in Amory, Mississippi, 662-257-1900 is that number. Call it. Ask for Corey Clark. Tell Corey what Ford product you're looking for. He'll send you a quote within 15 minutes in business hours. 662-257-1900. Guests join on the Campbell Clinic hotline. From fractures and sports injuries to complex spine and limb conditions, the pediatric orthopedic physicians at Campbell Clinic in Oxford are the only specialized pediatric orthopedic team in North Mississippi providing expert care for growing bodies. Check them out, campbellclinicoxford.com, or call them at 901-759-3111.
Is it about an annual thing? How often you typically get this strep situation? Or what you think might be?
At least once a year. I'm going to try to get to the doctor today, but my schedule's so slammed the next 3 days that I don't know that I'm going to get there. So this might just be a gutted out deal.
Ole Miss, South Carolina. We'll get to some of the Lane Kiffin stuff, but two pretty high profile passings yesterday. Dikembe Mutombo, 58, brain cancer. And then last night, Pete Rose, 83, the Major League Baseball all-time hits leader. Have we seen a cause of death on him? No, I have not to this point.
I've not, and I don't know why. I was outside. I promised Laura I would grill some chicken yesterday, even though I wasn't feeling very good. I went out and did it, and had the TV on outside. I was watching the end of the Braves Mets doubleheader, and I guess it was Eduardo Perez came on and broke the news about Pete Rose, and I don't know why that hit me the way that it did, but it kind of did. I kind of caught myself almost tearing up about Pete Rose because he was such a – you're too young for this. He was such a part of my childhood. Baseball was so big when I was a kid, and he was easily one of the two or three faces of the game, and he played the game in a way that you as a kid wanted to emulate. I mean, he was the reason kids slid into second base head first or third base head first. Mm-hmm. It wasn't because of anything else. It was because of Pete Rose. Sometimes you'd see kids try to hit out of that crouch, and that was Pete Rose. People were emulating this guy that we saw once every couple of weeks, or we saw on This Week in Baseball or whatever. He was huge. I mean, he was such a great hitter, and he played the game in a unique way, and I think everybody, self-included, sort of remembers all of the post-playing career stuff. But for whatever reason, when that hit me yesterday, it hit me really raw, and it reminded me of his playing career. The night that he broke the record and his son was out there on the field, he hit the single to, I guess, left center off of Eric Schau. And I don't know, I just kind of thought about that. I remember the day that he tied the record. It was at Wrigley against the Cubs, and it was just cool. I was like 15 when that happened. It was just, I don't know, that for whatever reason that made me feel super old yesterday. Like it was sad. Like it hit me in the feels pretty hard.
Yeah, he breaks Ty Cobb's hits record in September of '85 and then has this arc that changes from what you're talking about, gets caught gambling on his own team, banned from baseball, the whole thing everybody's aware of. And yeah, I'm kind of with you that, I mean, he's before my time, if you will. I do not remember Pete Rose as a player with my age, but his 4,256 is one of those stats I can roll off the top of my head immediately. It's something, as you said, that's sort of broken into the lore of baseball. It's not today's media environment, but what do you sort of remember about that going down the way it did and that coming out and then all the fallout from his kind of decline of his legacy, because he's a guy that if gambling never happens and that never happens, I mean, that's the most rarefied air we can be discussing any baseball player in history right now.
Oh, yeah. Immediate first ballot Hall of Fame, maybe a unanimous Hall of Famer. I don't know. You remember it coming out and it being this scandal. And if you've ever been in a Major League Baseball clubhouse, this is where I have like really complicated feelings on this. If you've ever been in a Major League Baseball clubhouse, and I've been fortunate enough to be in several during my career, rule number one is you don't bet on baseball. Mm-hmm. But right there, you don't bet on baseball, and they spell out what happens if you do. And he did.
There are no gambling signs up, literally. Like it's
the first thing you see at the top of the list of rules. I mean, you know, they have like rules about how you wear your uniform and stuff like that, but the first thing is no gambling on baseball. Period. And that you face a lifetime expulsion if you do. And he did. And then, you know, I think it's easy to get caught in a lie and to just double down on that lie and double down and triple down and quadruple down on that lie because you've lied. And when you lie and you lie again and you lie again and the lie gets bigger and more complex and now you're wrapped up in the web of the lie. And I think that happened to Pete Rose, and he would have been so much better off just owning it at the very beginning and maybe facing a 2-year suspension or something. Maybe they would have worked something out, but he denied it, and then it got proven, and then we did this whole thing for the rest of his life about should they forgive him and let him into the Hall of Fame. And a part of me was always like, yeah, it meant so much to him. Let the old man into the Hall of Fame. Let him experience that. And then another part of me was like, but that's the rule, and he knew the rule, and it waited till, I guess it was that interview with, was it Charlie Roberts back in like 2003 or 4 where he finally kind of owned it. I don't know. It was complex. It's like a lot of things in life. It's pretty complicated. But, man, he was an incredible baseball player in a completely different era of the game when it wasn't so – and I'm not saying the era is now bad, but the era now is about home runs and strikeouts. He didn't hit a lot of home runs. Probably could have, but he didn't strike out. I mean, he was must-see TV on some really good teams. He was a part of that. I mean, I've told this story growing up in Ruston. My next-door neighbor was a guy named Kerry Merritt. His dad, Mickey, was a football coach at Louisiana Tech, ended up being on Billy Brewer's staff at Ole Miss. And Kerry was a big Reds fan because the Reds were the team. They were the big red machine, Pete Rose and Joe Morgan, Ken Griffey Sr. and George Foster and Tom Seaver and all those guys. And as a kid in Ruston, I mean, I'd never been to Cincinnati. I didn't know anything about the Reds, but you knew about the Reds, the big red machine. It was this monster team. And you knew about the Yankees with Thurman Munson and the Dodgers with Steve Garvey and Dusty Baker. And I mean, those were bigger than life people when I was a little kid. And then he went to the Phillies and he won a World Series with Tug McGraw and Mike Schmidt and Bake McBride. And I mean, the names that I can still recall today. And he was just a huge part of that in my childhood, and he was such a phenomenal player and really a big part of like pop culture. Even, I mean, everyone knew who Pete Rose was. You wanted to play like him. You wanted to do the stuff that he did. He was bigger than life, and then later in his life, he was probably smaller than life because he was really minimized.
I have spent most of my life thinking that he should get in, but it's not that I'm minimizing the gambling or anything else. Some of my deal with Hall of Fames is, I know we say the people, like it's a person getting in, but in me, it's documenting history. And I understand contextualizing and all those sort of things, but it's more of the accomplishments are what's going in the Hall of Fame as much as the person. Does that make sense? Like, I feel like in some ways it it is more about whatever it is that happened versus the person getting rewarded necessarily for doing the doing, if that makes sense. And
I always saw those, like the induction ceremony weekends, and you would see the video of him up in Cooperstown and signing autographs at like some seedy looking place. And I don't know why. That always made me sad. It was like, it made me think about, like, sometimes you see the parents that got estranged, and you'll go to a little league game or something, and the dad doesn't have custody, and he's just kind of standing over there on the side by himself watching his kids play. It always made me kind of feel like when I look at that. It always kind of gave me this heaviness. It would have meant a lot to him. I don't know. Again, stuff like this is really complicated, and I don't know why the Pete Rose thing. It's not something. I mean, you've known me a long time. It's not something we talk about. I don't really think about it that much. But yesterday, when I heard of his passing, it made me really think about it a lot. And it was heavy. It bothered me for some reason. So I don't know. There was something like latent in me apparently about Pete Rose and what happened to Pete Rose that rose up and struck me yesterday.
I do think that plays a role. Alan on the stream says, feel like the strength of baseball media in Rose's day played a role in keeping him out. If it happened today, he'd be in. I don't know that he'd be in, but I think he'd be more likely to be in today. I do think that was something in that era of baseball media and that type of onslaught that was not overcomable in the same way that maybe today it would be over time.
Yeah, well, you wonder whether people would maybe help him cover it up today. Mm-hmm. I mean, there was a pretty recent example of there's a lot there, and baseball did a phenomenal job of either getting the whole truth out or covering it up really good. Because they couldn't afford that scandal, you know. And back then baseball was so big. Young people don't get it, and I understand that. I don't mean that as a criticism at all. I know it sounds like an old man comment, and I guess I am an old man, but the way the NFL is today is how Major League Baseball was in the late 70s, 80s. It was big. It was a powerful sport in a way that it's not today.
17-time All-Star, 3 times World Series champion, MVP, World Series MVP, Rookie of the Year, Gold Glover, Silver Slugger, Clemente Award, batting champion, whole thing. Pete Rose there. 4,256 hits.
He played first, played second base. He could play left field. I mean, he was in many ways ahead of his time. Like today, versatility is really valued. In that era, like if you played second base, you played second base. If you played first base, you played first base. Pete Rose kind of played everywhere. I mean, he could kind of do anything. And he was a player manager. I mean, it was his whole life too. I mean, baseball was his entire existence. There was just a lot there. Again, at some point, somebody will write one of those like opuses about Pete Rose's life, and I'm sure it's been written already, but someone will really write it. I'll read it.
The other one yesterday, Dikembe Mutombo, legendary center, 58, brain cancer for him. I guess I told you right after the show ended, if I recall correctly. Yesterday's a little bit of a blur. But kind of same thing there. I mean, in the heyday, what kind of context do you have to Mutombo?
I mean, he was like one of those great Georgetown players in the vein of Patrick Ewing and Alonzo Mourning. I mean, you picture him as, you know, one of John Thompson's guys, and then he goes to the NBA and all the shot blocks, and he was part of that Nuggets number 1 seed team that lost in the first round, and then he became, you know, the the shot block thing with the commercials. And, I mean, you begin to realize, and you talk to people that knew basketball pretty well, that he was one of the really good people in the sport. Big-hearted guy, and, I mean, 58 years old. That's just so sad. I mean, it just kind of a shitty, sad day in sports, really, when you think about it. I mean, the Rose thing is so complicated, but he was 83. Mutombo thing is just super sad because still a young guy. His kids are still, his son. I saw a video of his son. His son appears to be like, mid-20s maybe. And I don't know, just sad, man. I mean, that a guy like that's gone at the age of 58 because he was, I think the commercials, you got to see his personality, and his personality was really fun and generous and kind of a loving, caring guy. And he was a great basketball player, one of the best defensive players in the history of the game. But the basketball part sort of gets minimized just by the loss of the human.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, a keynote figure of an era that's pretty important for the NBA in general. I mean, just sort of they moved and were in the middle of that transition after the Bird Magic deal and where it was there at that point in time.
Well, and he was a impactful international player when that was still a fairly rare thing. I mean, now we're used to it. There's international players all the time that come over and become a part of the sport instantly, and nobody even really thinks about it. They're just another player. Back then, it was he was still playing at a time when the sport was, I would guess, 95+% American-born players.
One quick thing back on Rose before we move on. I'm reading from the Cincinnati Enquirer. Yeah, there was no immediate cause of death, but again, he was 83 and in apparent poor health anyway. Said that in some court documents in the last few years, it mentioned that he had was struggling to walk, was on blood thinners, and had undergone 3 heart procedures in 5 years.
Oh.
So I'm sure those things played a role there in that. He was still trying to keep a schedule up. Even on Monday, he was in Tennessee, in Nashville at the Music City Sports Collectibles and Autograph Show, and there was a photo taken on Sunday of him sitting in a wheelchair surrounded by several of his teammates from the Big Red Machine. So that was on Sunday. And now, again, we're just...
No idea what that makes me as sad as it makes me. I have no clue. It just really struck me yesterday.
Well, it's a tormented life in a lot of ways. The one thing that is your entire life, and you are blacklisted from it. You're a cancer to it in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
The regret and the shame and the wanting it back and knowing that your entire world is so different.
And he was just so good, man. He was so good. Like, you couldn't get him out. And it was a different era of baseball. Like, at the end, you could watch him every night. But most of his career, certainly the prime of his career, you'd see him in the World Series and the All-Star game, the Ray Fosse thing, which today would never happen. Never in a gazillion years would someone run over the catcher in an All-Star game. Never. But that was the way he played. And those World Series with the Reds and the Red Sox with the Carlton Fisk home run, and it was just such a different era than today.
I know it's completely different in 1,000 different ways, but if somebody at the stream, this or Kobe get you more?
Kobe, because he was young.
Yeah.
I mean, and I loved Kobe. My God, I mean,
that's what they're discussing. I think Kobe's the biggest sports death of my lifetime.
Yeah. I mean, Pete Rose is 83.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's not a shock. The death is not a shock.
No, it was just the sadness of him never really getting closure on some things, probably. Kobe that still hurts. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's I think everybody, even though you can't relate to his greatness because his greatness was so unique, there was something about him that was relatable. And then after his career was over, you got to just see him be a dad. And
that's what everybody's cheated out of.
And and we got cheated out of what he would have meant to I was a part of me that thought about this during this whole Caitlin Clark controversy over the last year. If Kobe Bryant were still alive and as involved in the women's game as I think he was going to be, he may have been able to stop all of that by simply being the voice of reason. Instead, it was this political thing. with her, and someone goes to a game with a MAGA hat, and someone on another team says that makes me feel unsafe, and you're doing all this ridiculous crap about Caitlin Clark, who's just a hell of a basketball player, period. She's not a hell of a white basketball player. She's just a hell of a basketball player. I think Kobe Bryant, his voice would have chilled that a lot.
Yeah, that would have been going on. You've seen him at his daughter's college games, and then parent, if her career keeps going and whatnot, and what they expect. I mean, it's just so many different parts of where what he would have meant for women's basketball, and frankly, parenting and pop culture and everything else. And yeah, as they mentioned in the stream, if it's not Kobe, it's Dale Earnhardt. I don't know how to separate those two out from each other. So
yeah,
it's one or the other.
For sure, those are two that you remember where you were when you heard it. And Earnhardt died doing what he loved. I mean, he died on the track, obviously. Kobe's deal was just, I don't know, the fact that it was probably so preventable, and we just got cheated out of a lot there. I mean, I always thought Kobe Bryant was one of the most fascinating people, and forget sports, just in general, because he had that kind of drive that separates him from,
Damn,
I mean, they don't pass out an NBA uniform to just anyone. You got to really put work in to play in the NBA. And you got to really put work in to become a starter in the NBA. And you have to really be talented and put some serious work in to become an all-star at the NBA level. And then you have to have even more to become an first team all NBA guy. I mean, that's rarefied air. And yet there was something about him that was above all of that. And that's unique and special and different. And, at the end of that career, suddenly you got to see him just be a human. And it was kind of cool. Here's this guy that was Mamba. I mean, that was the right word for him, because he would just kill you. And suddenly he's just a girl dad. And you got to see, a different side of him. It was, I don't know, we got cheated out of that. I hate that. That's one of the real sad things for sports people, is that we've gotten to see Tiger Woods be human. Mm-hmm. Totally. In the meat of his career, he was just this robot, and you cheered for other people just because you wanted to see if anybody could beat the robot. But now that he's a human being, you love him, you cheer for him, you hope his kid's really good, because how cool would that be? And he gets to enjoy it. And we didn't get that with Kobe, and that sucks.
Yeah. We will move on to some other news in a second. Before we do that, we'll tell you about Wendy's Nuggets. You've had Wendy's Nuggets dipped in sauce, but you've had them covered in sauce. Wendy's new saucy nugs. Take the crispy and spicy nugs you love and turn them up to 11. Choose between flavors like buffalo, honey barbecue, garlic parm. If you're a real heat seeker, try spicy ghost pepper. Only at Wendy's signature spicy nugs. I dare you. 7 delicious ways to try the nugs you already love. Pick a flavor, grab some napkins, and prepare to nug like you've never nugged before. For a whole new way to nug, it's got to be Wendy's. At participating U.S. Wendy's.
I'm going to apologize to advertisers right now. I'm going to really condense these today. You guys, please forgive me. It's not personal. I'm just trying to get through. We're brought to you by Comer and Southern. Different names, same great people and products and services. They sponsor a lot of the things that we do. They're awesome. If you're in Oxford, Tupelo, Batesville, call Comer 662-801-1777. If you're in Memphis, Hernando, South Haven, call our friends at Southern 662-429-4429. We're also brought to you by Window Hero. Speaking of really good guys, Roby Allen, fantastic guy. Get in touch with him if you need your windows cleaned, gutters cleaned, gutter guards, really everything in between. They've got the equipment to do that. They can go, it's 4 or 5 stories high on a building, which is a stupid thing for you to do by yourself. So let them do it for you, and they'll take care of it. It'll look great. 662-510-7077 or windowhero.com. You can get the game day look with socks that financially support the Rebels. Every step you take shapes the future of Ole Miss athletics. Go to deadsoxy.com. Choose a subscription to receive the latest in Ole Miss styles every month. With the subscription, you get 25% off member pricing, free shipping, and a free gift with your first order. So it's deadsoxy.com, DEADSOXY.com. I've got a Monday notebook up. It's brought to you by Southern Q Sauce, Craft Barbecue Sauce, and Rubs. The sauce is fantastic. If you haven't tried it, you really owe it to yourself to give it a shot. The rubs are great. They've got a variety of different rubs. Go to southernqsauce.com. Use the discount code Rebel Grove. Get 15% off your order. You help us when you do that as well. Their sauce is also available at several locations inside the state, including Oxford Meat Market Company in Oxford, Barbecue All-Stars in South Haven, and more. Voice willing, I'm going to be taping several interviews for MPW Digital Extra. It's presented by Rustic Revivals. Please go to Rustic Revivals ms.com. Look at their furniture. They do phenomenal work. I mean, some really beautiful stuff. You can enter the promo code Rebels10. You get 10% off your purchase. Again, they're great people, Josh and Ashley Pierce. They make pretty much any type of furniture that you might want. They have some in their shop in Flowwood. You can also look at them on Instagram at Rustic Revivals. You can call them directly at 228-217-1243. Or you can email them at rusticrevivals@gmail.com. If you're retiring soon, if you're thinking about how long you should take Social Security, what account should you pull from first, get in touch with my friend Andrew Sego Wealth Management. He specializes in helping folks just like you come up with their retirement game plan. Whether you meet at his office in Collierville or prefer Zoom from anywhere, you can schedule a free discovery meeting, see what they can do for you. It's rebelsretire.com.
Show's also brought to you by BetterHelp. Halloween lets us have fun with what scares us. What about those fears that don't involve zombies and ghosts? Therapy is a great tool for facing your fears and finding ways to overcome them, because sometimes the scariest thing is not facing our fears in the first place and holding ourselves back. So give therapy a try. Talk to somebody with no preconceived notions. Families, friends sometimes take their own baggage into it. Just get an experienced therapist that will help you cope and help you out with whatever it is you're dealing with. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, suited to your schedule. Fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time with no additional charge. So overcome your fears. Visit BetterHelp. That's BetterHelp.com/MPW to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp.com/MPW. What was your take on Lane's mood yesterday?
He was in a shitty mood.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Yeah, he was in a bad mood. He was doing the short answer thing, kind of no matter what.
I thought he really wanted to get on with it. He felt, maybe I'm reaching here. I kind of almost thought he felt questioned or criticized a little bit. There was more defense than usual with Lane, which is not it's there, but not in that way. I kind of like there was a little bit of, hey, I'm getting paid $9 million, jackass, shut up, to the day a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, there was the question about usage with Priestcorn. There was a question about spreading the ball. There was the Bentley question that
a lot of offensive usage questions.
We got the same answer on that. The same answer. I understand, I do, why fans are frustrated. But when you say the media hasn't asked that question, you're wrong. The media has absolutely asked that question repeatedly. And he gives the same answer. Now, you, the fan, can believe that answer, or you cannot believe that answer.
Yep.
And I'm one to criticize media, but in this case, I don't know what media is supposed to do. Follow up and go, hey, Lane, either do you tell me the truth or else. I mean, it's possible that that is just the truth. That he's just not as good as the other guys. Lane does not take losses well. He wants to win. I just don't believe that there's some personal thing against Ulysses Bentley that's stopping them from playing him if they thought he was the best running back. I could be wrong. I don't know. We don't have access to practice. We don't have access to behind-the-scenes meetings, etc. But it is possible that he's just telling the truth.
Which is, I mean, look, Bentley's been banged up multiple times. He's had multiple injuries. He's had a lot of stuff. I guess, and look, this is no criticism or talking about somebody as a person, but I mean, the point of all this, though, is, and it's just you primarily, and myself to whatever extent, and other people. I mean, it's mentioned in the stream. You lose Judkins, and for all purposes, have lost Bentley to this extent. At least the Bentley that averaged 5.7 yards per carry last season, that played a pretty critical role as a number 2 running back, and you replaced them with Parrish and Matt Jones. That's a significant fall off that would have altered, at least to some extent, the expectations for this team. It just would have.
Yeah, well, of course.
And then throw in now a banged-up offensive line. He says yesterday that Jerquan Scott is not healthy yet. It's part of the reason he's not playing, which, duh. I mean, Jerquan Scott would play if he was healthy and ready to play. Jeremy James still out with a broken hand. I don't know where he is in the recovery of that process. Even though Caleb Warren was not on the injury report, the availability report, as the SEC keeps bitching at people to call it. He has not played yet, even though he was not listed and seemed to be getting healthier, at least for the most part. And then now, again, no word from Ole Miss, but Brian and I independently yesterday had heard Jaden Williams is out for the season, or at least likely out for the season.
I've heard the same thing.
Yeah. With the rumor is ACL. I do not know that part to be where I can report it, but that is what keeps coming around as ACL. But either way, I do not believe they expect him to play anytime soon. So you're talking about 1, 2, 3. I mean, that's a significant portion of your offensive line that now also is not the running back room right behind it. I mean, offensively, that's bringing in questions and problems that we did not anticipate prior to the season. We talked about the increased depth in that room, and suddenly there is not much extra depth, and they got to figure out left tackle, and Diego Pounds has got to be damn good all of a sudden.
Would they play 6 offensive linemen Saturday?
Is
that what you wrote on Sunday?
They had 4 play 100% of the snaps, and then they had 2 split the other spot. And that was, I don't remember who played though. Yeah, Jerquan Scott played 9 snaps, and somebody else played the rest of them at his position.
Yeah. And they're about to go up against a different type of defensive line. I asked Lane about that. He gave a pretty good answer, I thought, because it wasn't really. Some of the other questions were kind of accusatory, and he got defensive. And then, my question was just more schematic. Is it do you have to change what you're doing protection wise or whatnot when it's a different defense? And he was like, it's a completely different defensive line, different scheme, different everything. Don't know that he completely answered my question, but he did validate that it's totally different. He was frustrated. I mean, look, you don't have to be a very smart, in-tune guy. And I think Lane is a smart guy, and I think he's very much in tune. But you don't even have to be to know that Saturday's big. Saturday's big, man. I mean, you simply can't lose Saturday. I mean, in a world where Ole Miss loses Saturday afternoon, I mean, and I'm sure I would write this too. I've already started the mental thing of, okay, what are you writing in a loss? What are you writing in a win? And in a loss, I mean, you still write, hey, look, there's still a path. But it's one of those paths where it's like going around a mountain, and there's snow, and there's no guardrail, and the tires are sort of bare, and it doesn't feel good. You're antsy. When at LSU becomes a absolute must-win, home against Georgia becomes a must-win. You can't stumble anywhere. That's a lot. And, so as opposed to a win on Saturday, even if it's sloppy, even if it looks terrible, and I'm not saying it will, by the way. I'm just saying even if, it lets you go in the next week against LSU and go, okay, it's going to be a challenge. It's hard to win there. But if you do, then you go into an open date. You kind of have a reset button, and you have a chance. And I wrote about this in an answer to a message board thing. One thing that has stuck in the back of my mind a little was I remember I was basically covering LSU as a beat writer in 2003. I wasn't a beat writer, but I was there so much that I may as well have been one. And they played Florida. It's middle of October. National League Championship series was going on. It was Game 4, Cubs-Marlins that night. But that day, it was a 2:30 game on CBS. Florida, with Chris Leak at quarterback, just beat the hell out of LSU. Just destroyed them. It wasn't even close. And I remember everybody around that LSU program, a lot of the beat writers that were fans, were basically writing obituaries. This is over. This is the end. They didn't lose again. It turned out to be a good thing for them. They fixed some stuff. They changed their identity a little bit. It's conceivable that could happen for Ole Miss. And so that's one of the reasons super careful not to be like, oh, this Kentucky loss was catastrophic. Not necessarily. I also don't want to spin it like I've heard some people trying to like, hey, it's not a big deal. No, it is a big deal. You lost a home game against a team that had 2 SEC losses already. It is certainly conceivable that this loss at the end of the season is a giant wart on your face. So there's two things can be possible at once. But yeah, I thought he was defensive. I thought some of his answers were pretty interesting to try to kind of read into. If the team is like him, they're gonna have a little angry chip on their shoulder on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, Grind makes a really good point here. It's kind of what we're talking about. So Q made me realize how much he opened up the passing game in the middle of the field by being so productive on dives. It sucks next level defenders in on the RPO. Yeah, I mean, there's not even as much space with the way they're doing everything. And we keep talking about pass pro, but I think Parrish only stayed back in pass pro like 7 times on Saturday. It was not a lot. He was out in routes for the most part. It wasn't where it was every single time they're bringing in a back to make sure they protect Dart any differently. I mean, like that's the thing. If it's not like him simply not as good as the two guys is the only thing that schematically makes any sense, because nothing else makes any sense. Again, I'm not saying it's true or not true. I don't freaking know. Just saying.
Yeah.
You can't go, oh, well, it's completely because of pass pro. Well, that makes no sense because they don't hardly ever back pass pro for the most part. And Parrish is good at it.
I mean, I don't know why he's not playing. I mean, all I can tell you is that, and you know this, I mean, Lane's been asked repeatedly. Mm-hmm. I think that was the 5th time he's been asked. And the answers are basically the same. It's nothing against Bentley. It just is what it is. Whatever that means. You can read into that or not read into that. I mean, that's up to you as the listener, the viewer, the consumer, the fan, whatever. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, all I'm saying, I'm not saying that Lane's telling the truth. I'm just saying that he typically tells the truth. And I think you have to at least consider that he's just telling the truth. But I don't know. Maybe there's some sinister thing. If there is, I'll be honest, I haven't heard it. Like, you and I have a mutual friend who continues to ask me, you really know, don't you? And I'm like, dude, I don't. I mean, if there's something that has happened that is like personal or something, I am unaware of it. I'm being complete. Maybe you've heard something. I haven't. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Bentley averaged about 20 snaps a game last year, give or take, something like that. To this point, he played 21 against Furman, 12 against Middle Tennessee, 3 against Wake, and 4 against Georgia Southern. Those all offensive stats, obviously, at this juncture. From a rushing standpoint, he only has 18 rushing snaps. To his credit, he has carried the ball 16 times for 62 yards, averaging 3.9 a carry in extreme mop-up time outside of one series when Parrish got a little banged up and they brought him in to spell that. From a special teams standpoint, he has played in 3 games this season, including 4 snaps against Kentucky on special teams. He was in all 4 on kick return. And that's the thing, too. I mean, it's not a help thing or he wouldn't be out there on special teams because that would make no sense. So, I don't know. I mean, I have a hunch that either he's going to play 30 snaps a game or we're going to continue some semblance of this the entire season. That's what's about to happen. And look, Parrish is not completely healthy. He got a little banged up on Saturday.
Yeah, I wrote about him yesterday. He says he's okay, but I mean, he had to be helped off the field twice. He's not a big guy. I mean, he got... One time they were looking at his upper body, and one time they were looking at his lower body. He finished the game, but I'm going to guess that I'm going to guess that he woke up Sunday a little sore. I would, or a lot sore, or probably feeling like he got hit by a truck.
Lane had basketball on his mind yesterday. He went basketball related with lots of his answers. He was all into the hoops yesterday.
Well, I mean, NBA training camps are starting this week. That's totally understandable. Totally understandable how one would be NBA obsessed yesterday. I mean, I get it. I get it. I was like, I wrote, I was a little offended with the answers. I mean, we're still talking about LeBron. Lakers didn't win the West last year, Lane. They weren't the 1 seed. They weren't. Just saying.
His answer to the Trey Harris thing was essentially, are we taking away balls from Harris to make sure you get other people involved? That was the gist of his comment.
One of the things that stuck out, about all jokes aside, is that he was very frustrated with only getting 50-something snaps. And it showed you that he was, panic's the wrong word, but suddenly every snap became very cherished, and they were trying to make the most of it. And after that first drive, they just never really got going again. We had a couple. Obviously, they scored some more points and they did some things, but they never clicked like that again. And I think through the first 4 games of the season, where they basically scored at will, all of a sudden you're in a different environment, and I think it was frustrating. I think it was still frustrating 48 hours later.
Yeah, again, Caden Lee with, I think, 2 targets and Juice with 2 targets was the way they went outside of Harris and his 15. If I have that correct, Caden Prescorn had the 1 there at the end of the game.
I will say this, not to start an altercation with you here, but Avery says that you look like you might have heard something, and I will say, looking at your face as I said that to you, you did look like you may have heard something. So I'm just defending. I'm agreeing with Avery. My sense was that maybe you have heard something.
Really?
I just looking at your face when I said that to you, that I had the same reaction that Mrs. Forbes had. I did.
No, I'm good. It's fine.
Okay.
All good. Yeah, I mean, again, we'll see where it goes. I mean, they were scared of running inside on Kentucky. They were using the RPO game to get – we talked about this yesterday. I'm not belaboring the point. I'm moving on. But that's what happened between the few plays and everything else and all the stuff. I thought, and you pointed this out in what he said, what he meant yesterday, him – talking to the team about expectations, about goals, still being present, about how even after 1 loss, we're still okay, probably means a lot of things. Is A, the noise is loud, because it's loud for damn near any team in this type of situation. You've got all these portal guys you're trying to make sure you're keeping in lockstep with chemistry and all that kind of stuff. And then it's back to the comment of everything feels like this 1 year make or break deal where every damn thing is magnified. And I think Lane gave credence to that somewhat yesterday, going, hey, yeah, they hurt, which is good. If they didn't care, then we got a bigger problem. So at least they felt it and it mattered and all that kind of stuff. And that's completely right. But needing to take time to do it, or at least cautioning and taking the time just in case, that was some level of revealing it yesterday as he's telling that.
If I were an Ole Miss fan, that answer is the one answer yesterday that would have lent me pause. It would have scared me. Mm-hmm. That in September, you're deviating from what you always do to address this. Look, man, we talked about this. It's one of the things that I'll give us credit for. But I don't know that other people did this much. We talked about how it's different when you're the hunted. It's different when you are getting the respect. I mean, Chase, we talked about it for months. It's different when everyone is saying, hey, you're a playoff team. You're a title contender. You could go to Atlanta. You could win the whole thing. Kind of like the consensus pick was that Ole Miss would lose to Ohio State in the national semifinal. That's respect, okay? That's not you. There were very few people, because when anyone did it, I watched people jump on it, like just like a crumb. Like The analogy I use is like we have 2 Labrador retrievers, and if you're cooking, they come into the kitchen, and what they're watching for is for you to drop one thing, and they pounce. They're not enjoying your company. They're not hanging with you. No, they know that food is around, and they're waiting for you to drop something, or maybe to have a colossal screw up with a whole thing of chicken hits the ground. That's what they're waiting on. And it was like that. People were waiting on a crumb to fall so they could pounce on it. Well, see, no one believes in us. No, everyone believes in you. And that creates a different level of pressure. And then there's a lot of noise. And when you lose, there was a lot of noise on Saturday night that it's over. Now, that's ridiculous, but that's there. And, okay, that was a devastating thing. You're going to have to go 11-1 now because that was not the kind of loss that we were talking about before the season. All of those things, that's there to the point that he felt he had to address it before the second SEC game of the season. I thought that was significant. I really did. I thought that was indicative of this is what happens when you build it a certain way and there's a bunch of people in there that aren't necessarily ingrained completely in your culture. You have some adversity. The adversity goes the other way, and you can tell through and there were some body language things on Saturday. There just were. I'm not jumping into it because if you start talking about it and then they go on a roll, you look like a complete idiot. Instead, you do the right thing, and that's what I'm doing. You kind of make mental notes. I saw something. It might be nothing. It might be indicative of something. We'll find out. But the fact that he felt like, hey, yeah, I've got to address this with my team on September the 30th, I thought that was potentially significant.
2 more football things. We'll come back to those here after the break real quick, come back and discuss those and move on to a couple other things after that. But first, G&M Pharmacy, 662-236-2222. They deliver locally in the Oxford area and they offer medicine. To fill your prescriptions the same day each month, take care of you. One trip to the pharmacy, one delivery. You have everything you need when you need it with G&M. They also make it easier to transfer your medications. When you do that, you just make one phone call. They take care of everything else, set you up, have you ready with G&M and Tyson Drugs. So again, that is 662-236-2222.
Brought to you by Grenada Home Center. Paints by Benjamin Moore, Pittsburgh Paints, Farrell Calhoun. They've got flooring of any and all types, stone countertops, granite, quartz, everything you're looking for, window treatments, plantation shutters. They've got it at Grenada Home Center. They can deliver. They can come in and personalize. Basically, as a contractor, 1301 Sunset Drive, Suite H in Grenada. Call them at 662-226-3127. Arnett's Fine Jewelry is a fourth-generation jeweler, located in the old Lamons Jewelry Building in North Lamar Avenue in Oxford. They offer expert jewelry repair, diamond engagement rings, pretty much everything you could want in jewelry. It's great for gifts, birthdays, graduation, anniversary gifts. Push presents, Christmas at Arnett's. Basically, they just want to be your jeweler, so get in touch with those guys. The College Corner is the place to go when you're coming up, getting ready for Ole Miss football, basketball, whatever the case may be. They've got a location off of Sisk Avenue in Oxford, in the Oxford Commons, more than 4,000 square feet of the best Rebel gear. They've got 2 locations in the Jackson area. You can also check them out online at collegecornerstore.com. They've got another giveaway going on. I'll talk to you about that tomorrow, but it's collegecornerstore.com. We're also brought to you by our friends at Pinnacle, at Argent Wealth, I should say. When you work with Argent Wealth's 401k advisory services team, you gain a valuable advisory team and time-saving resource that will help you develop and maintain a solid strategy for your retirement plan. Get in touch with them at myargentwealth.com. And we're brought to you by John Edwards, Regency Travel Incorporated in Memphis. If you're thinking about a trip that you want to create a lifetime of unique memories, you want it to be a special one, get in touch with John. Give him some budget, give him some parameters, give him a budget, and he'll help you quite a bit. He'll give you some options that you just might not find on your own. And no, you don't have to live in or near Memphis to take advantage of his services. It's 901-494-3387 or send him an email, jedwards@regencytravel.net.
At Citizens Bank, you're not just an account number. You're a valued member of the community, and now if you find yourself in the market for a mortgage, There's another reason to give them a try. Whit Wilson, who many of you know in the mortgage space, is now at the Citizens Bank and ready to help you with your real estate goals. So stop by, visit 902 Sisk Avenue, Suite E in Oxford to discuss your options with Whit or one of their experienced bankers who values your unique financial journey and makes every moment uniquely yours. While you're in there, also check on the School Spirit debit cards. They donate an amount per every transaction to the local school of your choice, whether it's Oxford, Lafayette, or Regents. That's the Citizens Bank, PHILA.com. Would you, and maybe you've answered this, I don't think I asked you yesterday though, but Door's asking in the stream, what'd you make of Dart's comments about wanting adjustments to come sooner?
Interesting. Probably should have followed up on that. I don't think we would have gotten an answer, but interesting. I don't know. I don't know whether he meant, hey, wish we would have noticed that earlier in the game or before halftime or whatever. They've got the iPads, they see things, but I don't know, man. I don't know that I could really dive into that with any degree of education.
Early on Saturday, what are the signs you're looking for, positively or negatively, just in general? What do you sort of want to see or think you would see that would dictate something in your mind?
Line of scrimmage, second possession. If something goes wrong, how do they react to it? Are they calm? I mean, not that they panicked Saturday. I just don't think they've been in a – I thought one thing Saturday that you could see, and, you left at halftime to go get ready for the postgame show. And in the third quarter, I remember saying this to somebody. It was like there's one of these teams that you can tell has been through a couple of battles, and there's one that you can tell it's just been a cakewalk. And I thought Kentucky you could sort of see Kentucky go, okay, well, we've done this before. And you could kind of see Ole Miss go, what's happening? I mean, because Ole Miss didn't just beat the four teams they played in the preseason. They just toyed with them. Mm-hmm. The games were literally never competitive. Like, there was never a competitive minute in any of those four games. Think about it. They played 240 minutes of football, and not one of those minutes was remotely competitive. I heard someone try to push back on that, go, well, I mean, there was some moments in the Wake game. No, there was not. There was never a moment in the Wake game, and there was never a moment in the Georgia Southern game where you went, this could be close.
No. There
were a couple of moments in the Georgia Southern game where you're like, they might not cover a 36-point line or whatever it was. That's it. That's not competitive unless you're one of the players on the field and you've got 500 on your team covering the line. There's nothing intense about that. And suddenly you're in that. So in many ways, I think they're better prepared for what's coming on Saturday now because he'll have their attention. I mean, it's easy. You see this in sports all the time. You see it in pro sports. Teams start reading their own headlines. They start reading their own news, and they go, hey, we're unbeatable. We're on top of every statistical chart. And, I mean, they got humbled. I mean, I expect to see a pretty focused, locked-in football team. And on the other side, I expect the same from South Carolina because South Carolina knows Alabama's next. This is a big game for them. This is a game they've circled before the season as, hey, this is a game that maybe we could steal. And, I mean, I think it's going to be a pretty intense football game. I do.
So, next week, athletic directors from the Big Ten and the Southeastern Conference are meeting all together. We're having one big happy, not just a conference meeting, but a two-conference meeting in Nashville. Hey, Nashville, though, not a garden spot, Neil. I mean, it's not the Covington Airport, but, I mean, it's not Hilton Head. They're not going to Maui next week, so we're making progress.
Are we guessing they're going to stay at the Homewood Suites by the hotel or what? I mean,
you don't think they're going to stay out in Antioch? You don't think that's what's coming next week while they're in Nashville?
I'm going to guess not. But I do like the fact that they're meeting at a place that's not like Scottsdale.
Okay.
Because this tells me that this is serious. Like when they all go out to Scottsdale or something, I'm like, so you guys, want to go enjoy some nice weather, maybe golf a little, get a little hiking in. enjoy some cocktails that evening. Sure, I get it, 100%. But
this is more workmanlike. No, we're logistically meeting in the middle.
Yeah.
This is like, I mean, because look, Nashville would like whenever the SEC and the Big Ten basically decide they're completely on the same team and they're just going to run everything themselves and they own college football. I mean, Nashville would be a very legitimate spot for everything to sort of be headquartered at that point.
Oh, let me be clear here. I like Homewood Suites. I stay at Homewood Suites all the time.
Oh, no. We are both Hilton people. Hey, Homewood Suites. I mean, you're good. No problems there.
Yeah, I mean,
DoubleTrees, Embassy Suites, all good.
Yeah, not a criticism, just an observation that.
Does Homewood Suites give you the cookies, or is that just Embassy?
No, that's
DoubleTree. I mean, yeah, it's just DoubleTree, isn't it? Okay. No cookies at the Homewood.
I've never gotten cookies at the Homewood Suites.
Okay.
They give you extra waters if you're like a diamond member or whatever.
Yeah, you can go in and kind of set what you want, and typically waters makes as much sense as anything. So yeah. That's fine. So anyway, they have leaked out that two of the things they are discussing are automatic bids for the college football playoff, which they don't really need, but if you can get them, I guess great to have. And then a possible non-conference football scheduling arrangement between the leagues on the agenda. 3 sources who take part in the meeting said Monday to The Athletic. Yahoo Sports, the first people to report on this. I think Dellinger earlier in the week. So the playoff thing feels like something that's going to happen. I do believe there will be automatic bids beyond the one for the SEC and the Big Ten post-haste. Neil is holding up 4 fingers right now.
For each team, each league. Each league is going to get 4 guaranteed bids, or they're going to tell everybody to go kick rocks.
So that is on the table, and then they're being a little more coy about the scheduling thing. They would like to just set up a week that they play each other, set up some sort of back and forth, home and home every year where you match up teams, whatever the heck that looks like. The one issue they have right now is that the SEC has not come out and just said they're going to go to 9 games in the conference. So they're in a little bit of a holding pattern when it comes to that. But it's not really about the minutia that I find interesting for this. It is more of we're publicly now getting at the table and going, hey, we're the 2 stakeholders. This is our sport. We're in control of this. So let's take the infant steps to how far can we go? What does this become? Where are we? And I don't think I'm hyperbolic to say this is the first step in some sort of coalition that is essentially running college football in a short period of time.
I don't think it's hyperbolic at all. I think it's just like saying 2 + 2 is 4.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's just a statement of fact. It's walking outside and taking a thermometer and going, it's 67 degrees outside. Whatever the case may be, it's just a fact. It's inevitable. And their TV partners, this is inevitable. Fox and Disney or ESPN or whatever, however you want to do that, they look at this inventory and go, why are we not playing each other? We could trade these games out. These games would be more attractive. You've got big brands like Texas and Ohio State, and you can't play each other? Stupid. Instead, you're getting Texas versus ULM. I mean, Fox looks at that. I mean, ESPN looks at that and goes, this is dumb. And they're right. You want more money? Okay, we'll give you more money. But if we give you more money, we want this. That's just how things work, right? You don't just throw more money at something. You typically want to get something out of it. And it's why the SEC hasn't said 9 games yet, is because they want to make sure they get their extra money out of this. But it's where it's headed. I think it's headed to a bigger playoff. I've heard 14 is absolutely imminent rather than 12. And I think you'll see a minimum of 4 SEC and a minimum of 4 Big Ten bids locked up, where it's definite, and that will allow teams to go, okay, well, we're willing to schedule another game now. And I think that's where it's headed. And then, but the whole breakaway and making it a different thing away from the NCAA, you get back into all the other Title IX stuff and all the unionization stuff that, frankly, I'm tired of talking about. I know it's a real thing, but until it happens, I'm just kind of waiting for it to happen. I mean, I think everybody knows what has to happen, but nobody really knows how to get it there. And these are smart people.
Austin, thanks for the super chat. Says it's a scenario of a partnership between the SEC and the Big Ten. Does the SEC match the Big Ten with members? Do UNC and Virginia come into the league? I mean, it's certainly a possibility that you would try to match and even that up for sure as you become a two-conference league. Yeah, I think the timing and the order is what's interesting because in the spring, the Big Ten put out this thing and the SEC backed it where they were trying to get 3 or 4 automatic bids to the college football playoff starting as soon as possible. And they were going to lock those in and all this stuff. And under that theory, under that proposal, the ACC and the Big 12 were each getting 2 each. So you had 4, 4, 2, 2, or whatever. I guess 3, whatever. And then they were trying to save that one spot for the group of 5, at least in that proposal. I think that was strictly a bargaining chip and not something they were going to do right then. They knew they'd come back to it later. Because what happened was they dropped that. But they dropped that only in an effort that they achieved to get a higher amount of revenue share versus the other conferences in the playoff money that is going to come to these schools. So they went, okay, we won't do the automatic bids. We'll let that go. But since we're letting that go, here's what we are going to do. We're going to get this. So they can get that, have that set in stone, and now revisit this with their power at this point, and then still get the dang thing. Because I don't think that's what they wanted anyway. They don't want to deal where the ACC and the Big 12 are guaranteed 4 of the 12 teams. The hell with that. Mm-mm. They want 4 automatics and the ability to have even more than that.
Yeah, 100%.
They're not just going to give a third of the inventory away to those 2 leagues.
No, they'd like to put 6 teams each in the playoff. And look at if they're going to play each other, their strength of schedule is going to be higher, and they're going to start arguing for that. And frankly, it's a valid argument. I mean, I think if in a 14-team league, they're going to say, okay, well, 5 from the SEC. I mean, a 14-team playoff, 5 from the SEC, 5 from the Big Ten. You get your little group of 5 Cinderella BS, 1 from the Big 12, 1 from the ACC, Notre Dame. If you win, you get in. If you don't, then the other one's up for grabs. Mm-hmm. If you don't like it, quit. I mean,
my favorite paragraph in this. The Big Ten and the SEC asserting their strength and alignment has been met with concern from Big 12 and ACC. In the ACC, sure. Big 12 Commissioner Brett Urimark and ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips expressed disappointment with where the revenue sharing landed, and members of those conferences said automatic access that essentially predetermines which conferences are best wasn't in the best interest of college football. The CFP is just another example of our industry running amok, Iowa State Athletic Director Jamie Pollard told reporters this year.
I mean, when the 2 super rich, good-looking guys walk into the bar and walk up to your girlfriend, you get concerned.
Yes.
Yeah. There's some concern that, this night might not go the way I envisioned it. That's a valid concern.
And you have to, if you're those conferences, though, you have to play ball to some extent because the thing that down the road could easily happen, and the thing down the road you have to try to avoid from a nuclear standpoint, is the SEC and the Big Ten completely take their ball and go home and say, we're just going to play each other. Peace.
Yeah. Oh,
we're the new NFL in a 40-team conference, and we're going to hold our own playoff, and good luck, guys. Y'all have fun.
Well, and Fox and Disney would pay for that.
Yeah.
Fox and Disney does not care whether Middle Tennessee and ULM are taken care of. They just don't care.
Yeah. One's the NFC, one's the AFC. We're going to put 7 teams each in a playoff, and we're going to play a bracket, and we'll see your champion in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
Done.
It actually makes more sense than the current model, doesn't it?
Yeah. Who says no?
I mean, the ACC says no, and the Big 12 says no. But yeah, that's it. And so if they want to continue to have a seat, they're going to have to accept that the seat is at the little kids' table, and you get to serve your plate after everybody else is done. And you might not get a second piece of pie. You might just be stuck with your first piece of pie. So make the most of it.
And this is a little small on sample size, but I think it would play out in a large sample size too. To this point of the season, the 2 most watched college football games on the schedule have been SEC Big Ten matchups. Texas Michigan pulled a 9-1-9, and USC LSU pulled an 8-6-2.
So are you saying that you think that the networks have noticed that?
I'm saying the networks probably didn't go, you know what, that's complete accident. Let's just ignore that data as we have it right here.
Look at the potential matchups you'd have. I mean, we could do this. We could do this like you could literally just pick whoever, right? I mean, what's going to get a bigger number, Ole Miss Middle Tennessee or Ole Miss Michigan? What's going to get a bigger number, Alabama Georgia Southern or Alabama Ohio State?
And here's the deal. It's why I think what we just talked about makes the most sense in the world, because one game is not deciding anything. You're not scared of playing the game, because if you finish 7th in the league, you still make the damn playoff. You're in.
Everybody watches the Chiefs and Ravens, and nobody goes when the Ravens lose, well, that's it for the Ravens. They're done. See you later.
Mm-hmm.
No, I mean, that's where we're headed. We're headed to an NFL model where you might lose 3 games and still win the national championship.
Yeah. You win 5. You lose 4 or 5 and you're in still potentially.
Forever I heard old man yelling at Cloud going, what makes college football special is that if you lose once in the regular season, it's all right. Nobody did that Saturday with Georgia. It was a phenomenal game. I mean, the number's going to come back. Has that number popped up yet?
I haven't looked. Go ahead.
I mean, it's probably a bomb of a number. It's huge. It was a great game. Everybody watched it. Georgia had this historic comeback. Then Alabama makes a phenomenal play with one of the rising young superstars of college football. And the general reaction was, oh, they'll meet again, and I'll watch. Whether they'll meet again or not remains to be seen, but that was the general reaction. There wasn't a whole lot, well, that's it for Georgia. Good night. It's not what people said. So I think that's always been where it's headed, is to this breakaway. And to answer the question, yes, if you're in the room in Chapel Hill or Charlottesville today, yeah, hand-raised guys still screaming in the room going, what are we doing? What are we doing? This doesn't make sense. Let's just pay the exit fee and let's get out. Let's get in. Let's get a seat at this big table.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we're sitting between Texas and Tennessee. Maybe we're sitting between Michigan and Ohio State, whatever the case may be, but let's go sit. Let's get our seat.
Yeah, I'm scanning and I do not see one yet, but I could just not be looking in the right place. So.
And it's okay, but I promise you it's a big number.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it could be the biggest of the whole deal. People left it and came back,
is
my assumption.
So you're going to get, I mean, in the same way when Penn State and Auburn had their home and home, both of them had huge numbers for that game. The game in Auburn had a big number. The game in Penn State had a big number. I mean, TV people see that. Come on. You have a chance to get like Texas, Ohio State kind of matchups. Of course they want that. That's where the money is.
Yeah. All right.
I mean, someone says Ole Miss, Iowa. I mean, 2 programs that are sort of, top half, but not tip top of their program, of their leagues in terms of a inventory standpoint. Ole Miss, Iowa would get a big number.
Yeah. No, huge number. No doubt. Come back, finish it up in a minute. NE Spark, the fastest, most reliable fiber internet option available, whether you're streaming the Rebels or connecting with family and friends. Spark offers both residential and business packages with speeds up to 2 gigabytes. Also now, their lowest level is still 300 megabits. It is 3 times what it used to be for the same exact price. To learn more, register for service. That's nespark.com. NeSpark. Get connected. Stay local.
Get the beautiful, healthy smile you deserve at Corinth Dental. Dr. Bubba McQueen, Dr. Jenny Beth Hendrick are devoted to restoring and enhancing the natural beauty of your smile using conservative, state-of-the-art procedures that will result in a beautiful, long-lasting smile. From routine checkups to advanced treatment, including implants and Invisalign, Corinth Dental is here to help you achieve your smile goals. It's corinthdental.com. What he said, what he meant is up. We've referenced it a few times today. It's brought to you by Andy Ludicky of myperfectfranchise.net. Andy owns multiple franchises and businesses. He uses his expertise to help others find their American dream through a very thorough and free consultation process. So call Andy, put your life and your career in your own hands. It's myperfectfranchise.net, Andy at myperfectfranchise.net, or 404-973-9901. I'll have a mailbag to you tomorrow. It's brought to you by Art Hayes, Sotheby's International Realty. If you're thinking of making a move, put the power of Sotheby's to work for you. Art Hayes can help you buy or sell in your hometown or anywhere in the world at no charge to you. Seriously. So call and ask him how. 612-805-5929 or email him at arthur.hayes@lakesmn.com. We're also brought to you by Kaiser Flooring. Locations in Oxford and Batesville, Kaiser Flooring provides outstanding quality flooring products and installation services to residential and commercial properties. They carry the best in hardwood, laminate, vinyl, tile flooring, and more. Get in touch with them today at kaiserflooring.com, or you can call them in Oxford or Batesville. Pete Deweese and I will tape tonight. Pete's Pigskin Preview. We'll look ahead to Ole Miss at South Carolina. That's brought to you by Meadowbrook Wealth Advisors of Raymond James. It's a full-service investment team based in Jackson, providing financial planning and retirement investment management to clients across the state and surrounding area. Ryan Geary and his partners, they do a fantastic job. They can bring their clients an impeccable level of service. If you're interested in a no-obligation consultation or just want to be added to their monthly market update email, get in touch with them today at 601-368-2215, ryan.geary@raymondjames.com. And don't forget, the Mini Passers Camp is getting started at Oxford Park Commission. Parents can sign up their 4- and 5-year-olds to take part in the new program, Mini Passers. The instruction is led by former Ole Miss kicker Andrew Ritter. 3 straight sessions will be hosted at M-Trade Park starting October the 13th. You can sign up for the 3 to 4 p.m. or the 4 to 5 p.m. session. Cost is just $50 per participant. OxfordParkCommission.com is the place to go to. And then real quickly, youth basketball registration begins today. For OPC, leagues are open for both boys and girls, ages 7 to 15. The season begins on January the 7th. Games will be played in both the Coach Howell and Oxford Activity Centers. The cost depends on age, but it's $60 to $65 per participant. You can sign up at OxfordParkCommission.com.
Johnson Hill Creamery, that's johnsonhillcreamery.com. Still a few weeks away from Ole Miss's next home football game, but you can check out their other offerings, everything else going on as well there with Johnson Hill. Again, that's johnsonhillcreamery.com. You order right there on the website. They feed 10, 20, or 40, depending on what it is you need from a catering, a tailgate situation. They cater other events too, or just stop in. Lots of different cheese options, lots of pepper jelly, spicy feta dips, a favorite, charcuterie trays. If you're making your own charcuterie trays, they can hook you up with the cheeses and extra items of your choice as well. So again, that's johnsonhillcreamery.com. They're located in Chicory Market. So again, stop in and check them out. Everything is available though right there online. Again, johnsonhillcreamery.com. Neil mentioning the Mini Passers, Andrew Ritter running it. You know you're going to get a good experience. Andrew, one of the nicest guys in Oxford, so I will say that. You don't have to have any worry about what's going on if Andrew is the one heading that up. He's a tremendous guy. Former Ole Miss kicker, obviously, with him. I was going to read a little postseason baseball yesterday. The Mets and the Braves both advanced. The Diamondbacks are out of the postseason. The Mets and the Braves are in. Crazy game in Game 1. I think like 8 runs combined or something in the last 2 innings between the Mets and the Braves in Game 1. Mets end up winning that on a home run in the 9th. And then in the second game of the day, as the Mets were sitting people, the Braves went 3-0. Pitched everybody available, which is not much. And then the key news puts Atlanta in a hell of a situation here where it's hard to bet on them. Chris Sale will not pitch in the NL Divisional Series against the Padres. He was scratched yesterday with back spasms. He is the Cy Young overwhelming favorite. He's the NL Triple Crown winner from a pitching standpoint, and he will not pitch for the Braves, who have just had that season from hell. They're a playoff team, but they've had the year where it just doesn't work out. As good as 21 was to them with the World Series, this has been the exact opposite of that. Acuna, Fried, Riley, Sale, up and down the list. So, yeah.
I need them to be careful with Max Fried this week. Listen, you guys, listen, fellas. I mean, this 3-day rest thing is not smart. Let's not do that to young Max. He needs to be cared for and pampered.
You're just looking out for the young man. That's all you're doing.
That's all I'm doing. I'm looking out on behalf of the Fried family and Max and his health. I just want everyone to be very careful. In fact, I mean, listen, you should shut him down. Just there's no reason for him to pitch in this San Diego series thingy. Just let it go.
So I mentioned it, and as dumb as it was that these games happened yesterday, because it was really stupid and could have been avoided, it was an odd photo to see Mets and Braves players hugging each other and all high-fiving with everyone having goggles and champagne on the field. It was so weird yesterday. I mean,
it was crazy. It was kind of fun though. I mean, because the Mets win the division, they win the playoff spot, and now they have to wait 3 hours for
a game they couldn't give two craps about at that point.
I mean, couldn't care. Like Pete Alonso's out there, and I'm like, why is he out there? It's like, well, there's nobody else. I mean, he has to play, but like the Mets bench during that game was so completely checked out. It's like, hey, there's a party in 2 hours. Mm-hmm. Hurry up. And so the game ends, and they run into their clubhouse to start celebrating. Like, you just lost, but you won. And then the Braves, as painful as game one was, they knew they were going to win game two. So it really didn't matter that much. The Sale thing that would have taken the wind out of the sails. No pun intended. Boy, it's going to be hard.
It took them away from at least having a puncher's chance because you could pitch. To just not, I don't know. I mean, it's.
I mean, you're gonna, like Ginger says, did someone say champagne? I mean, you're gonna have some champagne in a minute. Why are we waiting? I kind of kept waiting to see the Mets dugout with them like drinking on the bench. Like, hey, what's up, man?
I kind of thought that. I wondered if they just bring it out in the dugout and just go, yeah, sure, all right, cool, sweet. I guess baseball probably would have frowned upon that.
Yeah, they would not have been happy. That would have been viewed the wrong way. I will say it was kind of
that would have given some writers some coronaries. I mean, God, some of those Baseball Writers Association of America guys. Oh boy!
If Frankie Lindor had been sitting on there just sipping some champagne, I will say when it was just 1-0 Braves, I was like, you guys, man, don't play around. I mean, go get your lead. I mean,
anybody can run into one here, and that's it. And
these are major league hitters swinging a wood stick. I mean, it is conceivable that someone hits a ball 400 feet.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I mean, I always thought I'd hate the format. I kind of like the format.
I'm all for things being sponsored, as evident by our NPW Digital. But could you tell me any of the advertisers that sponsor the actual rounds of the Major League Baseball postseason?
No, I haven't looked at it.
So the entire postseason is sponsored by Adobe, like the computer company that does Photoshop and everything.
Okay.
The Wild Card series, all of them, are sponsored by T-Mobile.
Okay.
The NLDS is sponsored by Booking.com, or the ALDS too. Sorry, the Divisional Series rounds.
Okay. So we know the commercial.
Yes.
Yep.
The Championship Series by Loan Depot. Kind of curious what their advertising budget is. And then the World Series by Capital One. Couldn't have told you any of those.
No, I would not have got any of those right.
Your first round matchups for Major League Baseball and the American League.
These are 3-game series that are at the one park. They don't go back and forth.
I think that is correct. Correct. Yeah, I think that's right. It is the Orioles hosting the Kansas City Royals in a 4-5 matchup. Interesting. Yeah. Yep. I like those. I like the Royals. It is the Astros hosting the Detroit Tigers.
Completely
today, things off.
Completely in. Want to see the Tigers. The Tigers' Cinderella story is fun.
Detroit has been a very fun story throughout the year. The winner of Astros Tigers meets the Guardians in the next round. So Cleveland waiting on the Tigers or the Astros. The Yankees are waiting on the Royals and the Orioles for a second round matchup. And then in the National League, the Brewers are hosting the New York Mets starting today.
Totally in.
The Atlanta Braves are visiting the San Diego Padres today.
Yeah.
In a series. The Padres-Braves winner heads to Chavez Ravine to face the Dodgers.
Yep.
Padres-Dodgers would be really intriguing.
A Dodgers-Padres series where the Padres knock off the Dodgers would be wild.
And then the Brewers or the Mets will head to Philadelphia and face the Phillies at Citizens Bank Park. So,
yeah. And a Phillies-Dodgers NLCS is must-watch television.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it really is. That's
Baseball has such a good postseason, but it's in the middle of football season. And in America, good luck.
Yeah, good luck. It's why there's no games Friday, and I think that's just such a stupid error. Such an unforced error.
Yeah, we're going to play on Saturday and Sunday when everybody's going to be locked into football, but we're not going to play on Friday.
You're not going to play on
no football.
Literally have it to yourself, like you're competing against some mid college football games. You got a real shot. Save that game 3 for Kansas City, Baltimore, where people can see some of the really good young players. Play that on Friday afternoon, Friday night.
Mm-hmm.
Give me that. Give me Atlanta, San Diego game 3 on Friday, not Thursday.
Yeah,
that's so stupid. Like where? I know we have a show, but like, where is the guy in the room who goes, "Hey, why are we giving Friday away?"
Mm-hmm.
Oh, travel. They can't travel.
Bump it a day.
So travel on Saturday, play Sunday.
Yes.
I mean, that's not complicated. No one's going to watch anyway. No one's going to see game 1 whether we play it on Saturday or Sunday. So if anything, move game 2 to Monday where people might actually see it. Well, there's Monday Night Football. Yeah, that starts at night. So let's play in the afternoon on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I get it, but the NFL doesn't play any games on Friday. The college football slate on Friday is usually sort of mid.
Yeah.
The only people that really watch Friday night college football are the junkies. Is that fair?
Sure. Yeah, 100%.
So compete with that. Don't wait till Saturday where you've got big Fox News, Fox big game count, whatever, and ESPN Game Day kicking you right into a schedule of ABC and Fox with big national games. Like next Saturday, you've got.
It's just a haymaker of a day.
It's Alabama, South Carolina at 11. You've got the Texas OU thing at 2:30. You got Ole Miss LSU at 6:30, and that's just the ABC side of it. I don't even know what Fox has that day. It's like
there's Oregon, good stuff. It's like it's like Oregon, Ohio State, or Michigan's playing somebody. It's a full day.
I mean, just wait. And then on Sunday, you got the NFL where it doesn't matter who plays who. You lose. So wave that flag, man. I mean, don't give Friday away. That's idiotic. It really is. I don't know why that decision it makes me just question people's sanity. Like, this is, well, we have to get these games in by a certain, well, okay, well, then move this. Just move some of these series back one day so that you're guaranteed to have a couple of deciding games on, because we love deciding games too. So game 3 is a deciding game. Back up enough where you almost guaranteed to have 1 or 2 of those. And then cool, like a Detroit, the Cinderella Tigers going for a game 3 win against the big bad Astros. Yeah, I'm watching.
Yeah, you can play on Friday and Monday and get those kind of games. So
as opposed to Maryland, Michigan State. Like, okay, yeah, great, it's football, sure, but I'd rather watch a baseball game that has meaning.
Instead, starts today. Everybody playing today for game 1 of the Major League Baseball season. So, in the meantime, MPW Digital, rebelgrove.com is the website with plenty of content up. And we'll be back with you again tomorrow as well. So, take care. Thanks for everybody in the stream, and we'll talk to you again very soon.